What's going on, Scotty?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Ready to get this over with.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure our volume's all loud and good.
Good to go? Oh, okay.
Call the meeting to order. Okay, we'll start tonight with roll call.
Commissioner Allen,
Present.
Commissioner Norwood,
Present.
Commissioner Ezell,
Here.
Commissioner Waddell,
Here.
Commissioner Stallings, Commissioner Funk,
Here. Okay, next up is invocation is going to be done by Josh Cosby from Central Assembly of God Church. He'll be followed by Zach Sharp leading us in the pledge. Pastor?
Thank you for the opportunity to pray together tonight. So let's bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly Father is called an invocation because we recognize in humility that we need help. And Lord, this year especially has highlighted our great need for community, for understanding, for respect, and for humility. And Lord, these men here are serving as an expression of authority. And I believe the greatest authority is you. Lord, your word says that if we ask for wisdom, you'll be faithful to give it. And I pray, Lord, that you would give wisdom tonight to these elected officials. Lord, wisdom to those that will express their opinions, wisdom to those trying to understand data and documents, Lord, that take time. Lord, your word says that if we seek, we'll find. If we draw near to you, you'll draw near unto us. Lord, and if we knock, the door will be answered to us. Lord, we're here knocking, needing your help. And so, God, I pray that you would be glorified in this community. And Lord, that you would cause all the things that have been lost over the last year to be restored in your good grace. Lord, I pray for the families of these community officials. Lord, it's been difficult for them. It's been difficult for all community leaders. Lord, because sometimes you feel danged if you do and danged if you don't. So Lord, I pray a healing and a comfort for them. Lord, that you'd minister to their hearts. Lord, minister to their minds. And Lord, I pray that this community would be one that is solidified together under the goal of your word, your name, and Lord, the premises that our country was built upon. Lord, we thank you, we love you, and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thanks, Pastor Cosby, and thank you, Zach. Item number 3, minutes, 3.1. Consider approval of minutes of the rescheduled regular commission meeting of March 2nd, 2020.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any corrections or additions? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Norwood,
Aye.
Commissioner Ezell,
Aye.
Commissioner Waddell,
Aye.
Commissioner Stallings,
Aye.
Commissioner Funk,
Aye.
Mayor Pinkerton,
Aye.
motion carries 7-0.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizational business. Item number 4.1, present pet for adoption, available for adoption at the city's animal welfare department. That looks like a lucky dog.
Hello, I'm Erica, and I'm the adoption coordinator at Animal Welfare. I brought Lucky with me this evening. He is an 8-week-old healer mix. He's definitely going to be a big guy because he's pretty heavy. And he is one of our dogs that we have available for adoption. We're located at 1200 South 10th Street, and we are open 7 days a week. So come out and meet all our pretty puppies that we have available.
All right, thank you. Okay, item number 4.2, present Autism Awareness Month Day Proclamation. If I could ask Zach and Teresa to come forward, please. If you would, just kind of turn around and face the crowd, read the proclamation, then I'll stop by in just a second. Proclamation. Whereas autism affects an estimated 1 in 54 children and 1 in 45 adults, and is a complex disorder that affects each person differently, resulting in unique strengths and challenges. And whereas autism can cause challenges with verbal and nonverbal communication, social interaction, and repetitive behaviors, and can affect anyone regardless of age, race, ethnicity, gender, or socioeconomic background. And whereas autism is often accomplished by medical conditions that impact the quality of life. And whereas a comprehensive collaborative approach will help to advance research, providing a better understanding of the many forms of autism, while strengthening advocacy efforts and ensuring access to services and resources throughout the lifespan. And whereas early diagnosis and intervention tailored to individual needs can have lifelong benefits, easing the transition to adulthood and fostering greater independence. And whereas each person and family affected by autism should have access to reliable information, supports, and opportunities to live up to their greatest potential. And whereas the City of Enid is honored to take part in this annual observance of World Autism Month and World Autism Awareness Day to address the diverse needs of individuals and families affected by autism. Now, therefore, I, George C. Pankinen, Mayor of the City of Enid, do hereby proclaim April 2021 as World Autism Month and April 2nd, 2021 as World Autism Awareness Day in the City of Enid to increase understanding and acceptance of people with autism spectrum disorder. World Autism Month and World Autism Awareness Day. In witness whereof, I have hereunder set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Enid to be affixed the 16th day of March, 2021. George C. Pankinen, Mayor of Enid. All right. Come on in. Come on. All right, smile. I believe it. Here, we're doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach. Congratulations. Thank you. Can I get that to you now? Yes. Special I give to people help us, and you help me pledge allegiance today. So I want to give you my coin from the Mayor of Enid. That's good. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
Item 4.3, present employee heroism proclamation. Mary, could you come forward and invite the others you wish?
I'd like to invite Linda Kern to come up here and join me.
Okay.
And then we will wait for
Okay.
Pedro to come up here. So if you'd like to go ahead, Mayor,
Okay.
with the proclamation.
All right. Okay, whereas on February 18th, 2021, one of the EPTA drivers radioed into EPTA to tell he was stuck in the snow. Bill Kern radioed, said he would go help him by using his bus to push him out. Just as I had suspected, they both got stuck. Mary Williams contacted Fleet Maintenance for assistance, and Pedro Perez and Nick Berkey were sent to assist. Whereas a short time later, Fleet Maintenance let Mary Williams know an emergency had occurred with the driver, Bill Kern. He had been taken to St. Mary's Hospital by ambulance. Bill's bus, the mechanics from Fleet Maintenance Department and Captain Jason Courier were on scene assisting with Bill. Whereas Mr. Perez and Mr. Berkey had gone above and beyond their job duties. Mr. Perez and Mr. Berkey were going to start pulling Bill out of his bus and his bus out of the snow. As Mr. Perez was moving the city vehicle around to the other side of the bus, he saw Bill fall backwards. He yelled for Mr. Berkey to check on Bill. Mr. Berkey found Bill lying on his back. Mr. Perez called 911. 911 instructed them to roll Bill on his side and they would send someone to assist them. Mr. Perez and Mr. Berkey they instructed Mr. Perez and Mr. Berkey to begin CPR. At this time, Captain Jason Courier arrived on the scene and was able to begin CPR. The ambulance arrived within just a few minutes of Captain Courier providing life-saving procedures. Whereas it is without doubt that Bill Kern would never have made it to the hospital alive had it not been for Pedro Perez, Nick Berkey, and Captain Jason Courier. Bill Kern had collapsed from an aneurysm. The 3 City of Enid employees had provided a window allowing the family to say their goodbyes to Bill. Friends and family said their last goodbye to Bill Kern on March 2nd, 2021 during the funeral. Now, therefore, I, George Pankinen, Mayor of the City of Enid, would like to recognize Pedro Perez, Nick Berkey, and Captain Jason Courier for the courageous and valiant efforts in a critical and timely manner. In witness whereof, I have hereunder set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Oklahoma to be affixed this 16th day of March 2021. Signed, George Pankinen, Mayor of Enid.
Linda Kern is here with us today, Bill's wife and his widow, and she's here to accept the proclamation from Mayor Pankinen. And we would also like to have Pedro Perez join us. Nick Berkey does not work for us. He moved on to, I believe it was Minnesota. And so he is gone. And Jason Courier, Captain Courier, was busy tonight and wasn't able to come as well. He was the fireman. So Mayor Pankinen. And we wish to thank Pedro, like I said in our statement, if it wasn't for Pedro and Nick on the scene so quickly, the family would never have had the opportunity to say goodbye to Bill. Because when I got there, Captain Courier had already explained that Mr. Kern, our driver, was unable to get a heartbeat at that point. So it was an aneurysm. It was something that could not have been prevented or stopped. We would also like to recognize that his daughter and I believe his son are with us on Zoom at the moment, so they also get to see this and get to recognize Pedro for what he has done for us. And Bill meant so much to us. We're not really much of a team group. We're more of a family at the Enid Transit. We're pretty close. And we were there during the hospital moments at the time that we arrived, and we're there for each other as much as possible because he means a lot to us. And I'm not going to do this either. I'm trying to hang in there because Bill will be greatly missed. He's just had his 5-year where he's been here for 5 years, and we just recognized him for that. So he is a big loss to us. He was doing what he loved to do. Yes. And Nick, or I think Pedro.
Item 4.4, present Desk and Derrick Club Awareness Month Proclamation. Allow me to read, and then I'll come over and join you. Proclamation. Whereas the Association of Desk and Derrick Clubs is a nonprofit organization retaining approximately 60 clubs in the United States and Canada, whose motto is greater knowledge, greater service. And whereas the purpose is to promote the educational and professional development of individuals, both men and women, employed in the petroleum, energy, and allied industries. And whereas the purpose of Desk and Derrick Club is accomplished by providing monthly program meetings with educational speakers, seminars, and field trips. Now therefore, I, George Pankinen, Mayor of the City of Enid, Oklahoma, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2021 as Desk and Derrick Awareness Month. In witness whereof, I have hereunder set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Enid to be affixed the 16th day of March 2021. George C. Pankinen, Mayor of Enid. Item number 5, administration. Item number 5.1, consider an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 6, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 1, General Traffic Division Provisions, Section 6.1-1-2, definitions to add electric scooter to the definitions, creating Chapter 14, electric scooters, to add Section 6-14-1, restrictions on use of electric scooters, to limit its use to roads no greater than 25 miles per hour, Section 6.-14-2, rules of the road, Section 6-14-3, parking, Section 6-14-4, trail system and sidewalks, Section 6-14-5, exceptions, Section 6-14-6, traffic laws apply. Section 6-14-7, penalty. Violations of this chapter will carry a maximum fine of $100, providing for repealer, savings clause, severability, and codification.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Norwood?
Aye.
Commissioner Ezell?
Aye.
Commissioner Waddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Stallings?
Aye.
Commissioner Funk?
Aye.
Mayor Pinkinen?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, item 5.2, consider rescinding the City of Enid, Oklahoma COVID-19 declaration pursuant to Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title 5, Chapter 3, Sections 5-3-1 through 5-3-10, and 63 OS 683.11. Before we consider here, we have some people that have signed up for this topic. So I'll call those forward for their thoughts. Kevin Copenhaver.
Good evening. I want to read something to you. It says, what is the greatest commandment? Jesus was asked this very question by Pharisees who were considered to be an expert in the law. Jesus answered by saying, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the greatest and most important command. Second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the laws and the prophets depend on these two commandments, Matthew 22, 37 to 40. Usually if we take care of the first one, the second one works out. Something's been on my heart pretty heavy is the second one, to love your neighbor as yourself. And who is our neighbors? It's everybody in this room. I just want to think about something I was thinking about, there's a few of you up here that I may interact with you at the base. I know that some people deal in concrete, and I may need some concrete run soon. And there's people up here for the law. And we need to respect each other and love each other. And it's been heartbreaking to me sometimes. And I think people are passionate, and that's great. But I don't think we should tear each other down. We should have some love for each other and be careful what we say to each other. I'm not sitting here acting like I'm an expert on this, because today I was driving and I was getting frustrated even in traffic. The light was out over on the west side of town. But just think about that, all the people in this room and the people that are watching, that we're to love our neighbors as ourselves. And let's just be a little bit nicer to each other in our community. There's some people that say they're for the mask. They're not for the mask. There's some that are getting vaccinated and some not. There's some that are Republican and some that are Democrat. But what's important is to remember that we will see each other in the community in activities pretty soon, summer activities, and we'll sit and visit with each other. I sure hope we don't become where we want to jump on the other side of the street because we don't like that person we're meeting. This is probably the reason I'm feeling strong about this is I have a father that's terminal. Yet, what's important in life is to be nice to each other and not judge each other and hate each other. And just think about that when you're speaking tonight, both everybody in this room. Let's just try to be nice to each other and watch what kind of words we say to each other.
All right, thank you. Luelio Pitt, and I probably pronounced that wrong. Yep.
The name is Lucille Pitt.
Okay, I'm sorry. The C looked like an E to me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm a member of the NAACP.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Seventh-day Adventist Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I am a member of the NAACP Legal Redress Committee. My husband and I and some friends have had a prison ministry since 1995 at Crabtree. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot within the criminal justice system. I'm concerned about two things: the mandatory mask issue and the inequity in the criminal justice system. Last week, I did a study before I even knew about this meeting on the number of persons of color in the state of Oklahoma in the DOC or criminal justice system. Of 77,000, and that includes people on probation, 22,000 are Black, a significant number are Hispanic. The third largest group is Native American, and the fourth largest is whites or Caucasians. My concern is the inequities in the criminal justice system, because persons can look at someone my color and automatically judge that I am not as good as they are, or that my people are criminals where they are not. We see it from the federal government on down. We see it with what's going on in Congress. Unfortunately, we see it here in Enid, where there is inequity in the number of arrests of persons of color
Excuse
versus
me,
persons who are white.
excuse me, Ms. Pitts. That's going to be on the next
Yeah, this one we're talking
item
about.
of the
Talking
agenda.
about masks.
Okay.
right?
I'm not going to
Mask.
allow you to,
Gotcha. Thank you.
I want to make sure you understand that that's coming up next.
Okay, so I get a chance to speak twice.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, you will.
Thank you. On the mandatory mask issue, we've been vaccinated, but we wear masks because we don't want to expose others to whatever we don't know. There's been a lot of studying done on the coronavirus. I'm also a retired nurse, and I can't understand why there are so many people who are against wearing a mask. I've had relatives who've died from the virus. I've had friends who've died, some here in Enid, some in other states. So I know that we've had several meetings about mandatory masking, and I know that there's been a lot of objection to it here in Enid. Someone else from something that I might have, I will do it, because as a Christian, that's what we are supposed to do. Yet we see that here in our city and in our state, we have people, even from the governor lifted all of the restraints for federal buildings and so on and so forth. But look at the number of Oklahomans who are dying every day from COVID. So it's obvious that the issue is not over. So I just think that we need to have mandatory masking here in Enid until we get a better handle on the virus. I know that some people are against being vaccinated. That's their privilege. But if we want to help people and help get everything back going again, why not wear a mask? It's such a simple thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's all I had for 5-2. Did you have any, Scott? Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion for approval.
I make a motion that we rescind the declaration.
Rob just did that. Were you seconding his?
Sorry.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Norwood,
Aye.
Commissioner Ezell,
Nay.
Commissioner Waddell,
Nay.
Commissioner Stallings,
Aye.
Commissioner Funk,
Nay.
Mayor Pinkinen.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-3.
Okay, item 5.3. Consider an ordinance adding to the Enid Municipal Code 2014 Title 5 entitled Public Safety, Chapter 1 entitled Police, Section 4 entitled Demographic Data Collection, providing for repealer, savings clause, and severability and codification. We have several that wanted to speak to this topic.
Mayor, I make a motion that we table this item. It's too early for us to make a decision on this. It was too sudden. It deserves that we research this a lot more.
I second that.
A motion and a second. Discussion?
Yes.
You guys want to table this without discussion?
No, we're going to discuss it now.
No, we're discussing. That's what.
Yep.
Okay. Do we want to discuss it first or let the people who signed up speak first?
I think we should kind of set the tone about how we've gotten to where we're at.
Sure. So I put this in the agenda. And let me give a little bit of background because we've come a long way to get here. And so, Jerry, we've come a long way. This is not a last minute deal by any means. We started looking at this data almost a year ago when a complaint was brought to this body about the police department racially profiling a woman's kid. And with that complaint, we got some information. The data set we got at that time in June of last year was very incomplete. It showed us the street crimes unit interactions, and it was There was very little demographic data for part of it. We had racial data on like half of it and nothing on the rest. And we started asking questions. Jonathan and I in particular. We started asking about our demographic data. Who are we citing? Who are we arresting? Who are we giving tickets to? And we started asking about our policies. What's our use of force policy? And we kind of got the runaround. I got the runaround from our police department. I asked a lot of questions, and I didn't get a lot of answers. I feel like I've got kind of stonewalled. And as we get further and further along, kind of keep getting the same answer. With our policies, we keep getting an answer about, well, we're working on it. And we're working on it. Then Jonathan asked for something in June, and then in September, well, we're still working on it. And then we meet in February, and well, we're still working on it. There's 120 policies. We've finished 20. We're working on 50, and we haven't touched 50. So we're 8 months in, we still haven't finished it. And then the data we finally get after we ask for it over and over and over again, and this is the governing body, mind you. The data we get is incomplete. There is spotty demographic data. It took well over a month after a 3.5 hour long meeting to get anything. And then it took Carol and the police department's IT guy a fair amount of additional effort to fill in some blanks. And the data we do have raises a lot of questions. And I think we've got a great police department. I think we have a lot of you here tonight. But I also think that everyone in public life is accountable. We all have to be accountable. In my business, I'm accountable. In this body, I'm accountable. And part of that, when you're doing something well, you ought to have the data to show we're doing something really well. Look how well we're doing. And if there's something wrong, if we have a problem, we should be able to first identify it, and second, use that data to see where we can do better. The request has been made to our police chief, through our city attorney, in several ways to do this somehow. And the answer has been no thanks. But when I see data that shows that less than 3% of our community is Black, but 12% of our arrests are Black, that I got questions. When I see that we mark people who are arrested as and are Hispanic as white, I have questions. We should do better. The first step in doing better and long-term making our police department more transparent has got to be getting the data together. That's all. We got technology. I can do magic on my phone. We're keeping track of all this stuff, most of it anyway. We need to do a better job of making our systems talk to each other. Our arrest software should be able to track not just race, but ethnicity. Our computer systems should be able to talk to each other, and there should be some reporting to the Police Civil Service Commission and to this body and to the public, because we are all accountable. This body is, the police department is. We're all accountable to the public. So the ordinance, as it's drafted, requires that demographic data, not a ton, age, race, and gender, just get counted. And when there's when there's a traffic stop, when there's a warning, when there's an arrest, that we record this stuff, which is, by the way, required in 20 states. It's done voluntarily by lots of other police departments. I spent 45 minutes on the phone today with the gentleman from the Norman Police Department who manages this on their back end. It's not that hard. We can do this. Brian, I read your quote in the newspaper today. I know it would be something different, but we can do hard things. We can do new things. You have in the police budget 2 positions for network specialists. And I know we have one on staff, and I don't see a posting to fill the other, but maybe we need to fill the other. And maybe we need to get another IT person on staff to help make our software work better, make our databases talk to each other, and get somebody to help remove, make this as smooth as possible. We could get help from other communities that have done this all over the country. We can get help from Norman. We can get help from countless other cities and states. We can do this. And then when we're collecting good data over time, we can see where we have problems because no one's perfect. And if we spent $1 million on a training facility, let's use that training facility and let's identify where we might have an issue. Let's identify where we might need to work on implicit bias or disparate impact and use our big fancy new facility and use some data that we can collect that we absolutely are capable of collecting and try to make the community safer and try to be more responsible and transparent and accountable. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. Jerry, this isn't last minute. This is many, 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 many meetings. This is months on the city council. This is multiple meetings. This is the meeting where we talked about this for half an hour when we reviewed the police, the FOP contract. Multiple meetings in the interim. There's been a lot of time on this. So I'm sure there's a lot that we can do better. I think this is only one piece of it. But man, it feels like we got to start somewhere. That's my background on this. Jonathan is.
Yeah, you mind if I jump in?
He's got just as much to say.
I'll preface this by saying, when I started this, it wasn't an indictment of the police force in any way, shape, or form. It was, I watched what happened in other communities inside the city or inside this country, and I watched how they were burned, there were riots, there were all types of things because there was a negative interaction that took place with the police, and they didn't have any data to point back to say that we don't have a systemic problem inside our department. We don't have any way in order to be able to show in substance the rest of the world, no, that's not us. We have an isolated incident here and we're gonna deal with it. And so I sat down with the leadership of the police department and I asked, what can we do? This happened back in March of last year. By August, I checked back in. Hey, where are we on this? We're working on it. 3-4 months later, again, where are we? What's the progress? February, we sat down after assurances, hey, look, we're making progress. And at the time, it was stated, hey, look, this data, this specific data that we're talking about right here is easy to pull up. It's not a problem. We've got a system, pull up, no problem. Matter of fact, it was at this meeting, it was an update, hey, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Weeks later, still no data until pressing on the city attorney, hey, look, if this data is so easy to get it to us. So these numbers that we're looking at here isn't something that we just pulled out of nowhere. This is police data. And if we're looking, again, just looking at it just simply to say this, if a certain demographic is being arrested at 4 times the rate of their population, let's explain it away. But the fact that the data wasn't even being looked at in and of itself systemically is a problem. Every community has a right in order to be able to understand where their tax dollars are going and how they're being used. Every city that's being policed by a department that they employ have every right in order to be able to understand how they're being policed. And all I'm saying is simply this. If we can't ask for data like this just to figure out, hey, look, is there a such thing as unconscious bias going on inside of our police department? Then we're not doing ourselves a disservice. And it'd be a different thing if this wasn't something that we've dealt with as a country over and over and over again. I'm not calling our police officers racist in any way, shape, or form. I know we've got some fantastic officers on this police that have helped my family, helped people that I know. You know, I call some of them friend. But I do the same thing in the private sector. Any agency that you go to has a quality assurance process to ensure that they don't get to just say, hey, we're the best at what we do. We get to point back to the data and say, yeah, we're doing this right. And that's all we're trying to establish here with this. Because as it stands right now, after a year of asking, and this is what we get, I don't know what the other mechanism would be. So simply put, this could have been an opportunity for us to be able to show how transparent, that's one of those key phrases that we use in government, right? We expect transparency, right? This is an opportunity for this community to be transparent on what we do and how we do it. So I'm trying to figure out how we don't do this. And so that's what I'm curious to find out tonight.
And I'd like to add one more thing, just for context. I'm quoting Jonathan. We're working with city attorney and chief of police to do reforms with use of force, reforms to chokeholds. There's a bunch of different policies we're reviewing and working together in order to specifically address areas. Maybe we don't have problems, maybe we do. One of which is data collection, to make sure that we're accurately collecting data. But we don't want to do it in a way which is adversarial with our police department. We want to work with the chief of police. And that was in June of last year. And I could show you all my emails. I know Jonathan's got just as many, and phone calls and these meetings. And I have no desire to have a bad relationship with the police department. I fight for a living. I'm a litigator. I've argued with O'Rourke for years. I've argued with Skaggs. I've argued with, that's what I do. It's not in and of itself an indictment. We can do this. We can do this stuff together. We can make our city better together, but there's got to be movement. There's got to be something. And I'm just telling you folks, I'm telling you guys sitting here in the second row, we've, I think, held up our end. We have not got what we need from the police department. This is an opportunity to make things better. And I simply asking to collect data. This is a tool for everybody. This is a tool to show what we're doing right. This is a tool to show what we're doing well. This is not an attack on anyone. This is let's get our numbers and let's look at them. That's all.
I have to say, I respect Commissioners Waddell and Ezell for looking into this matter. This motion I made was to table this. I didn't say it needs to go away. I feel that I'm in no way able to make a determination just by what I read overnight, and I appreciate the hard work you put into this, Ben, and writing this ordinance. But this city has founded, the form of government that we currently exist is now I can't think of the word. We have a charter that we have to follow, and that charter sets forth a police and fire civil service commission, and part of their responsibility is to hire, fire, discipline, and promote within their departments. And it separates them from us making decisions that may not be proper. So I have no intention of this going away. I just feel that it deserves a deeper understanding on my part and maybe some of the other commissioners. And we just address this again down the road when we can determine who's going to make these decisions and how we can make improvements in the department if they're merited.
But Jerry, there's nothing in here about hiring or firing anybody. This is just data collection. There's nothing in here about hiring or firing. There's literally nothing in that ordinance about that. All that ordinance says is collect the data, report it to the Police Civil Service Commission and the City Council. That's it. And I don't know what the confusion is there. I don't want to use this to hire or fire anybody.
Ben, when you wrote this, I mean, since that's not in our wheelhouse, the way I see it, this would be trying to make decisions for the police department. I don't know that that's even legal for us to do under the city charter.
We review their budget every year. We set.
It does not have anything to do with the operating of the department. They do quite a good job themselves. Basically, in Enid, Oklahoma, if you do something wrong, regardless of your ethnicity, you're going to be held accountable. And I think that's what the citizens of Enid expect, and they respect that. Now, I understand, like I say, what you're trying to do, but it's not tonight.
Well, but Jerry, here's the thing. We just passed an ordinance 20 minutes ago that told the police department what to do. We just passed an ordinance that said if you drive that scooter on Garrett, police department has got to write a $100 ticket. We pass ordinances, not quite every meeting, but every other meeting, and a lot of them are directing the police department what to do. We cannot hire or fire anybody. We have no right to do that. We have no right to promote. We do, however, control the entire police budget. We do, however, pass ordinances as this governing body. And a couple of us don't have that many meetings left. Simply saying, oh, well, let's table this until we look at it even more. You know,
I guess I didn't realize you were already looking at it. You hadn't shared that with me. And and I'm terrible. I'm not an attorney. I'm not good at arguing. I have a hard time even putting a sentence together and remembering words that I'm supposed to. So I'm woefully underprepared to have an argument with you, Ben. You're very good at what you do.
But our job and your job is, I mean, this is what we do. We look at agendas, we look at ordinances, and we vote on. I mean, we can vote on the motion to table at some point, but
Is there some questions that I mean, because we've got the police chief was in the room. We've got a room full of individuals who may be qualified to, answer some questions. I mean, is there? I mean, I just keep hearing about how difficult this is, and I'm just going to tell you. Here's what's difficult. What's difficult is going back home and telling my daughter, hey, look, you can trust the police, and then showing her this data that she's four times as likely to be arrested for a crime than somebody who's just a different pigment than she is, based on the data. That's hard. That's hard. And so what I want to know is specifically this. I want to know if we're not going to do this, because Jerry, if we kick the can, it dies. This is we kick the can and it dies. So the question becomes, if you're not willing to do this, if you're not willing to simply collect data, what happens when it becomes the hard decision, if we have to make an actual change? I don't understand how this idea about collecting data becomes now this point of contention. Like, that sounds crazy to me. If this was about if neighborhoods are catching on fire and we ask the police department, hey, get us some data in terms of, what neighborhoods are more, likely to get, it'd be offered up in a heartbeat. But we can't ask for data quarterly about who's being arrested, who's being ticketed, who's being stopped, and at what rate?
okay. Let's hear from some of the public who signed up.
All right. Let me call forward the people that are there. We can continue the discussion after that. I don't think anybody wants us to go away, and I don't think that's what tabling is about. I think it's about two people are well informed and have followed this for almost a year, and the rest of us don't feel quite as comfortable with the data because we haven't followed it nearly as closely as you have for the last year. So I'm not saying we don't do it. I'm saying we need to know what we're voting on before we raise our hand and say yes or no.
Mayor, with all due respect, it was on the agenda and it could have been brought up on the study session at the first agenda item when we asked if there are any questions about agenda items that were brought up. And if I remember correctly, not a single person asked a question.
This ordinance is less than 2 pages long, George. This isn't that complicated. This is not that complicated. We vote on items that I know you don't spend hours researching in these meetings that are 100 pages long and deeply confusing and complicated. We get advice from our experts who come here. What, you didn't look at the 2-page ordinance that says, hey, get data, record it. Half the ordinance is the same repeal or savings clause, severability, and convocation that's on every ordinance we pass. The ordinance is 3 subsections long. It's an A, B, and C. You could put it on 1 page. This is not that complicated. And the idea that kicking it down the road, I mean, oh, we'll definitely bring it back. It is not that simple. It isn't that plausible. And to say that this is so complicated when we are literally asking to collect data is risible.
Okay. Mayor, can we hear from the chief of police first before we get anyone else out in the public to speak?
Carol, a motion and a second. We've been discussing, is this allowed to go, or do we have to take action? Or I'm not a Robert's Rules of Order expert. Free discussion is okay?
Right.
Okay.
That seems appropriate.
All right, fine. Thank you. Chief?
Okay, what this ordinance does a few things. Number one, it directs, just like
Bring the
Commissioner
mic
said-
up, chief.
To hear him.
We're having a difficult time.
Is that
Thank
better?
you.
There you go.
Sir.
Okay. This ordinance does something that Commissioner brought up. It does direct us to do certain things. It directs us to do some intrusive things on data collection. And that is outside the purview of the council. I'm sorry, Ben, I'm going to disagree with you. Some of these things, the data collection that is set out here comes from a study that you sent, and it is extremely intrusive. Say, I'll give you an example. Say we stop a car and the driver, obviously if he's going to get a citation, we have all that figured out. And if there's 4 other people in the car, we have to ask them their race, ethnicity, their age, and then record that. How do we record that? We'd have to do another actual report, which is asking the officers every time they make a contact with somebody to do a report. That takes time. And it also, I think, is intrusive to ask people that you're not even going to really contact with, or you contact in a traffic stop or a casual contact on the street, intrusive questions that right now there's a lot of times people don't want to answer those. There's a lot of times these officers are on calls and they'll say, ma'am, how old are you? Well, I'm not telling you. They won't want to discuss ethnicity or race either. So how do we collect all that data when people refuse to tell us? And then we have to record it on a report? That is a lot of extra work, no doubt. Now, our data collection currently is CYBERS and NIBRS compliant. We're compliant with the state and the federal law. We're compliant January 21st of this year. Pages long. And the way they collect the ethnicity and race is acceptable to the state and to the Fed. And the Feds have more regulations than anybody. You guys know that. Commissioner, do you have something to say? I didn't want to run on.
Yeah, I was. That's a fair point. It's complicated, but if it's important, we'll find a solution for it, right? I guess my question would be: have you asked any other?
I have not, because
so what I'm saying is,
the biggest hurdle that we had was getting CYBERS and NIBRS compliant.
What I'm saying is this: is that when we find issues that are important to us, what we do is that we find ways in order to be able to overcome those challenges. And this is why when we had that conversation about a year ago, was I said I understood that there's going to be hurdles, and I'm willing to give you the time in which you need in order to be able to research it. And so this is why it becomes frustrating to me, is because you and I, we sat behind closed doors multiple times And I, whatever time, you tell me how much time you need in order to be able to get it done. And I left you alone. Go do what it is you got to do. A frustration comes in when we get to this juncture a year later and it feels like, nah, everything we talked about, it's just not going to happen.
Well, okay, let me explain some of that.
Thank you.
The conversations that we had, we discussed our policy manual and our redoing of the policy manual. And I think you were told at the time, the first time we did this in 2010, when I took over, it took almost 2 years.
Definitely.
And now we're using Lexapol, which Commissioner does not like. And I've got information on that. That is our insurer.
Sure.
Through OMAG. They do about 10,000 other departments.
Yes.
And we're in the process of doing that. We're in the process of getting it done. And the only thing I get from you two commissioners is, when's it going to be done and why is it taking so long? It is one heck of a long process when you have that many policies to be compliant with Constitution, federal law, state law, and municipal and best practices. And once that's done, I have no problem publishing that policy manual. And I think I told you that. And the other things that I've got from Commissioner is a lot of reforms. Now, I did get upset a long time ago in a meeting when we were talking about, I think the Commissioner said, police department needs to reform. We're not broken. And that irritated me when he said that. We are not broken. To infer that we need to reform means that we're broken. We're not.
I never said you were broken, Brian. I wouldn't watch that video
You
today.
use the word reform.
The reform does not mean broken, but I wouldn't watch that video today. I even made a list of the question I asked. Never use the word broken. And reform is not an inherent, doesn't mean that it's broken.
To me, it
Reform is
does.
an incremental change.
To me, it does. And I'll take it that way. And
reform means to improve upon. You can go in, reform means to improve upon.
Anybody, we all can improve.
Definitely.
You all can improve.
But I think
improve.
that's the point. When approached, it wasn't about, hey, look, your department's broken. It's like, the statement was, hey, look, we may be exposed in this particular area and I'm trying to figure out where we're at. Are you willing to be open about dealing with these particular issues? And I think, honestly, for the most part, we haven't had a negative conversation in as long as I've known you. No. I think you're a very good man and you're great at what it is that you do. I'm talking specifically about this data point and the way we collect this data and how useful it can be in terms of showing how well this police department is.
Cities in our state, in Oklahoma, do it, and they're all the same compliant that you are. If Edmond can do it and Norman can do it, there's absolutely no reason that we cannot. If it's going to take you, if it's going to take you,
lot bigger budgets. Also.
If it's going to take you a few months to get it put together, great. If you need to fill your open IT spot, great. Talk to us about what it's going to take to do it. But what we're getting from you is no.
The open IT spot's already filled, and the data that we gave you is the best we can do at the moment. And I don't think it's bad data, to be honest.
Our city attorney does. Our city attorney was pulling her hair out with how bad it was.
We disagree also. And if you look at our data and the national data, it's pretty close.
Except that our largest racial minority in the community isn't accounted for in the arrest data.
That is national also. There's a flaw in that, and that's on the national
Norman's accounting for it.
I don't know what database they use or what records management system they use. We've been married to this one that we use now since 1996.
Have we
and
even
to change
tried?
It would be about $1 million. If you guys are in charge of the funding, let's help.
Our city attorney told us that it could be modified, that we could, that it's software, Brian.
It cannot be modified. That's what ITI told us. That would cause, that's a base software that's used by other departments in Oklahoma. If they modify one, they have to modify the base. And I don't believe they're willing to do that.
Have you actually asked them what it would
Yes.
take to account
Yes.
for race and ethnicity on arrest data?
Yes. It's a change in their base software.
I would love to see their answer.
You can.
I would love for you to give us the answer that they provided to you.
I
on why
personally
it's
didn't talk to them because I don't understand the software.
Okay. Someone should.
Our IT person. What you're proposing here, Commissioner, is, like I said, I'm going to go back to it, very intrusive. If we stopped you on the street and asked you if you're a witness to a burglary, we would have to do a report on the contact of you for 10 seconds after you said, no, I didn't see anything, and ask you your race, your gender, what you identify as.
You only took
That's
290 355 field interviews in the entirety of 2020. It's not like you are taking.
You're asking for more than field interviews. You're asking for every contact. If you look at the ordinance, it says traffic stops.
Yeah,
roadblocks, which we don't.
But you're already going to have it for arrest data. You're already going to have it for traffic stops. The example.
But you like those. You didn't like those numbers.
I want you to keep better data, and the example you brought up was, well, if I'm interviewing somebody, well, I don't know anything. That seems, if I'm reading your data, that'd probably fall under field interview. But if you want to exclude trivial interactions, then great. Let's find a definition to exclude trivial interactions. Or if you have software and you got lots of it and you need a box that says decline to answer, okay, great. We're gonna have some people who will decline to answer.
With our software, I don't think we can just add a checkbox.
Every 20 states, every police department in 20 states do this.
Not every police department in 20
states. It's
states.
mandated in 20 states.
In 20 states.
Yeah.
And they mandate exactly what you have here, because this came from that other information that you sent from NYU.
From CPE, the
well, whatever you call
Coalition for Policing Equity. Yeah.
Yeah, but that is not actual from a department. It's not from a governing body.
The
police reforms, and you want them enacted.
This is all I've asked you to do.
When we first started talking, you were giving us Project Zero, all the other things, and you said you need to implement these.
I never said you need to implement this.
That's
Brian.
what I got. That's what I got from the city attorney.
I have never said you need to go implement this. I've never handed off a single thing.
There's good stuff.
Excuse me, Brian. I've never handed off a single thing and said, "Here, go do this." What I've said is, "Hey, these are some ideas. Let's talk about it." The one thing I've asked you to do, the one single change that I've actually asked of the police department, is this one. This is it. We talked about use of force policies. We walked through it in February. I didn't even have anything to gripe about, Brian. We looked at it, we talked about it. I had one question, you explained it to me, I said, okay, that makes sense. I have not asked anything of the police department except to keep
when
data.
are you going to get the policies done? When are you going to get this done?
Well, it does seem like when you were telling Jonathan, when you were telling Jonathan in September that, well, we have a few to go, and then when I ask you in January where things are, and when we sit down in February and you tell me that, well, we've only actually finished 20 out of 120, then after working on it since April, and when I see these, it's hard to feel like this is being taken particularly seriously. Okay.
But you're misunderstanding too. Our policies currently are not substandard. They've been updated over the years. They're not substandard. They're all compliant.
And that's great, but the question
the new policies will be even better.
But Brian, the question you have raised, the answer you have raised to the question that Jonathan and I both asked, what's our policy? The answer is not, here's our current policy, we're working on a new one. The answer is, oh, we can't give it, we're up and out, well.
The last meeting we had, you guys got the new one.
No, we looked at the new one too, but now you're telling me that we have a great one, so we need to, but you're saying two things. When we asked for it last year, you say, well, we can't give you what we have now because we're updating it. And when tonight you're saying, well, you don't need to worry about how long it takes to update it because we have something else. We're not getting the same answers.
Okay, I think we've kind of gone from data collection to policy to we're looking at a whole bunch of things now. What I'd like to do is go ahead and give those that signed up a chance to speak tonight. So
first, Chief, did you have anything? I mean, I don't want him to leave unless he said everything he has to say.
The only thing I have to say is the same thing I said earlier, is that this ordinance, which I think was a little last minute because it only dropped yesterday, and this ordinance directs the department to do something that this commission can't do. I think this does probably fall better under the purview of the Civil Service Commission, which I'll be meeting with Thursday and discussing use of forces and other issues with them. So It says plainly in the charter that the police chief has control over the department.
But I've got a question
Yeah,
for,
I'm
before
done-
you,
I'm
before you
done
cut
debating.
loose. I've got a question, Brian. If the police chief, so who does the police chief answer then to?
Everybody in this room.
How?
Anybody in this room can go to this police civil service board and take me to task. You can do it. Anybody on this dais can do it.
Want that clear.
Okay. All right, thanks, Chief.
One
Commissioner
question, Mayor.
Norwood has a
May I ask the chief a question? And if an individual is pulled over and, we have a right to remain silent,
Correct.
and they refuse to give you any information when it comes to recording data, how would you be able, or the department be able, to record data if an individual refuses to give you any personal information besides their driver's license? Say there's maybe 3 or 4 more individuals in the car with them. Are they required to show identification as well, or are they allowed by law to remain silent? That's my question
They can
on the
refuse.
data issue.
They can refuse, and that data will be lost. Their data wouldn't be recorded if they refuse to talk, they refuse to identify themselves, they refuse to answer any questions. Numerous times, these officers will do a traffic stop and say, somebody in the back seat, so can I see your ID? No. And they don't have to show it. And that's why I say it's intrusive if we have to start asking questions of people that don't want to talk to us. Just stopping somebody on the street and we got to record the info? No, I think that's intrusive.
And I would never ask.
Just to get the data.
And I would never ask the police department to violate anybody's right to do that. Absolutely, everyone should have a right to decline to answer. And the police should be able to record that someone declined to answer.
And that data is lost.
Well, but if you got 50 people declining to answer,
Or
there's a line on the
Or
table.
we answer our own questions. Well, he looks like African-American, he looks like a white guy, maybe Hispanic, I don't know.
But the other thing is, if we aren't sure how to do it, we could ask somebody who does. There are lots of other examples. I'm sorry, by the way, that you didn't get the ordinance until late. I asked the city attorney to draft it a week and a half ago. She didn't have time until Friday, so I had to put it together so it would make it on this agenda. I'm sorry you didn't get it beforehand.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
We're done?
Now, okay, everybody in the room knows that there's been a motion and a second to table. So I don't know how the vote's going to go for that, but it's likely that might happen. That being said, we've done a lot of discussion on the table. We've called over the chief to talk with him. I'm going to ask everybody to please keep your remarks to 2 minutes. If you want to talk longer than that, contact any one of us privately. But this is kind of a forum to be able to share ideas that are different that you want to share with the rest of the room.
Also, Mayor, we do have individuals on Zoom that would like to speak as well.
Yep, okay.
Let's see, first, Lucille Pitt, would you like to come up? And I know we started you and then kind of stopped you, so we've got part of what you wanted to say, but please come forward.
You know, as I've sat and listened, we have a real problem with truth and facing it. When we look at the driver's license, does not the driver's license have all of the information that we need to gather the data that is under discussion? The driver's license has our date of birth, our name, our address, our ethnicity. Does it not have ethnicity on it? It has a picture of you so you can look at the picture and tell what color the person is. Okay? So that they're to say or infer that information has not been or that there has not been enough time to gather the data. That's just not correct. I'm concerned with truth and why we are so afraid to discuss some of these issues of race. It is a systemic problem in our country from the days of slavery. Why is it that I have to tell my son, don't go out and visit your friends at night because you might have an encounter with the police and you might end up dead? Why is it that I can have a broken tail light and I can end up dead? Confronting truth of what's going on in our society. Policemen are human beings as we are. They have prejudices. They have difficult jobs. We have communities where they are always in certain communities and not in others because of cultural indoctrination. So while we're sitting here hemming and hee-hawing over why certain things could not have been done, we need to really face the reality that sometimes we want to make our race look better than others, and it's a systemic thing. It's seen in employment, it's seen everywhere. Why is it that when we look at the police force, I don't see anybody who looks like me? Why is it that when I'm stopped, I don't see a state trooper who looks like me? I know there might be one or two, but we're dealing with systemic problems, and we've got to at least be mature enough and honest enough to discuss some of these things without thinking that we're going to offend somebody or make somebody angry. We just need to grow up and realize that we have problems. We have problems in our country right now over the whole voting thing because some people believe the election was stolen. It was not. Some of us work our buns off getting people to register to vote. We even picked up people and took them to the polls. But once a lie gets circulated and a lot of people believe it, we just don't want to confront truth. And that is a problem. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Jenny Scott.
Good evening.
Evening.
One of my favorite quotes as it relates to racial justice in the United States is from James Baldwin. Not everything that we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. I believe this data will show that the vast majority of our police force adds to the community greatly and responds with professionalism and kindness. But why not understand how we can be better? As an educator, tracking my disciplinary data is an extra step, and it has been deeply uncomfortable, but it has made me a better teacher. I understand this measure will create more paperwork, but what could be more important than ensuring that our justice system is just for everyone? I don't understand what's more important than that. What could be more important than building trust across all of our community? In 2021, we memorialized the Tulsa Race Massacre in which a whole neighborhood was burned to the ground. I'm grateful for the progress we've made. My most earnest wish is that in 100 years, my great-grandchildren aren't still talking about race and equality in America. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Taylor Venus.
Good to see all of you tonight. I'm going to start off saying, like, I want more information and everything. So I would love for more information on arrest, more information on what you guys do in your job. It's more transparency. I'm just a little concerned that we might see causation instead of correlation on one data metric. There's enough data sets to kind of show there are differences that occur between races in policing or incarceration, death row. But I don't want us to see these numbers and then infer that just like but for the color of someone's skin, that is why they're being arrested, why the contact occurs. Because that's then inferring that our whole police department may or may not have like a racist, like either conscious or subconscious metric. And I don't want to have that. If we do, I mean, it sounds like we have that information that there's some proportional rate. I would like to get to the answer to that. I mean, that's across the board in criminal justice. Is it a result of socioeconomic issues? Is it a result of education? I mean, that list is long. But I would love the data. And I would probably love some other factors, but we could talk about some other time. But I just want to make sure that when and if we get this information, that we utilize it in a way to pursue answers. And I think that's what everyone in here really wants with this information, but that it doesn't turn into something else. Every person, the guys in the back on the police force, the guys patrolling right now, I mean, they have a hard job, and I don't want like emotion to come in publicly that they're going to get pulled over because of the color of their skin or the car they drive. I mean, we could go down that data set to show like economics is a big factor. And I mean, you have a car that always works. You might not get pulled over. You know, it matters how long you're going to go to jail. I mean, we could talk about like how like maybe tickets should be cheaper for poor people in town. I mean, there's so many different metrics we could do to improve our system locally. And I just want to make sure that's what we're pursuing and that it doesn't turn into something else.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Thank you, guys.
How many do we have on the phone? Just one? Let's go ahead and, is it, huh? Okay, Lenita Norwood, go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry. My name is Lenita Norwood, and what I have noticed, and I want to reflect real quickly on Martin Luther King's one of his sayings, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I have experienced being asked for my driver's license when I wasn't driving in the car. In fact, I was in the car with my son. They asked for his license and they asked for mine. And I actually told them no because I wasn't driving. But I've seen it occur to many, many African Americans that have been pulled over. One instance that occurred, I heard a big boom one night, and my son and I, the same night, we went to drive through the neighborhood to see what the sound was. Of course, we parked in front of a neighbor's home. Police pulled up. This is the same instance where they took my son's, looked at his license, and then asked for mine. And then I noticed that the neighbor went in the house, came back out, and I said, well, what are you doing? Ma'am, we have to see his driver's license because we have to document the occurrence or that we actually talked to this person. I said, really? When did you start asking for a driver's license or identification when someone is in their yard and we're having a conversation? So to me, I felt that was intrusive. And I've heard and seen it happen more than one time. So I know that it occurs. It's not something that I heard about. I've seen it and I have witnessed it. I have dealt with it myself when I've called for a police officer to come to the house and they asked me my date of birth. And my they asked for my date of birth and my social security number. I even saw a young man walking down the street with a bag. 4 police cars pulled up and asked the gentleman for his driver's license while he was walking. Why would you need someone's driver's license while they're walking? I don't understand it. There is a such thing as systematic racism. There is a such thing of someone losing their rights and having to deal with this intrusive behavior. And it's scary. It's scary for me as a mother of a Black son, for him to go to the store and be scared that he's not going to return home because he looked like he should not have been driving that car. We have spoken with the police department many times, and just a couple of months ago, a gentleman was driving through a neighborhood and they were asking why was he driving through that neighborhood in that new car. And they followed him for a period of time before they pulled him over. I won't say names, but we have discussed this. This is an ongoing problem. This is an ongoing issue. It's not hard for you to look at a Black person and tell that they're Black. You don't have to guess. It's not hard. And, no, it's not. You can check a box. That's part of what Commissioner was saying. You could check a box or write race. Most of us, any application that we have, we check a box with our race on it. When they get the age and the gender when they look at the driver's license, even if the race is not on there, you can look at me and tell what color I am or what my ethnicity is. I find this, I'm really hurt, really, because this should not still be going on in Enid, Oklahoma, or the United States in 2021, where people are treated with such disrespect. Why are Black men perceived as threatening? They should not be. They should be able to walk home or drive a new car and not be pulled over. Yes, I see it all the time. I see it, I see it, I see it. If it doesn't happen to you, thank God you haven't had to witness it. But the facts are the facts and the numbers are the numbers. And it's scary living in this society. It's so scary for Black people, for any ethnicity, to walk down the street, to be gunned down. We saw it on TV last year. Guys, we witnessed this. And it has happened. It has happened in Enid, Oklahoma. One of my classmates was hung on a tree in Enid, Oklahoma, with his hands behind his back. And they said it was suicide. I can't kill myself with my hands behind my back. This saddens me that we're having a discussion like this in 2021 and act like it's not still happening. It should not still be happening. The NAACP was brought forth because to stop the lynching laws, and it was started by white people who got tired of Black people hanging as strange fruit on the tree. We've got to stop it, guys. We have to love each other no matter what race we're in. We are the human race. That's the race we should, love each one as our neighbor. I heard the gentleman at the beginning. If you love me, you won't kill me. If you love me, you won't hate me. If you love me, you won't shoot my son in the back. If you love me, we can work through these problems. We can work through these problems. We've been working with the police department, and I appreciate our chief of police. I appreciate our DA and the sheriff's department. We've been working with them quarterly before the pandemic, and it looks like we have to start back very soon, because this discussion should not still be occurring. We need to treat each other like we want to be treated. Is it occurring in Enid? Yes, it is. Maybe we need to have some town halls to discuss it before it can come forth. We need to sit down with the whole town. We've sat down with the DA and with the police department and with the sheriff. I would ask if we can have a town hall and have real courageous conversation, because obviously we have some unconscious biases that we don't even know we have. I would ask if we can do that. I would definitely be happy to meet as the city of Enid and build this community of love like the Bible says love. We got to look beyond what we see. We got to be greater than how we feel. Thank you.
All right, Maria Eves.
Good evening to the commission. Thank you for allowing me to speak once again. I appreciate the efforts on the behalf of the commission to pursue the complaint that I originally brought to you back in early of 2020. I too have been awaiting answers. So what started my correspondence with you was after my son was stopped 4 times in a 7-month period by the same 2 officers. That's just a statistical anomaly, and it doesn't seem like that's even fathomable that could happen. But he was being targeted, and for all the times he wasn't stopped or arrested, he was followed, and they would literally drive behind him, and if they saw him, you know, they would turn around sometimes to get behind him. So back in November of 2019, we filed an Office of Civil Rights enforcement complaint with the Oklahoma Attorney General. And on December 19th, 2019, Lieutenant Hart came to interview my son about his complaint, and he was treated rather harshly. There was a lot of hostility. We didn't feel like it was an impartial investigation. We felt like Mr. Hart had already made up his mind, and the questioning that he was partaking in was strictly of a line to exonerate his officers of any wrongdoing. Shortly after that process completed, about a month later, the officer's wife showed up with another officer at my son's job. This other officer appeared to be pointing out my son to the officer's wife. And at that point in time, they said some things as they're running out the door of a foul nature. And then she returned later to the store by herself and physically assaulted my son. I happen to believe she was acting on behalf of these officers and doing their bidding. So a few days later, on January 27th, I filed the open records request to get the audio and video of the police investigation that had taken part, including the audio and interview of the woman who did the assault. And I had to fight this police department tooth and nail. In fact, they did not want to just pixelate the audio and video and just give it to me. They forced me to take them to court and file a lawsuit against them. That's not transparency. On February 21st, 2020, I filed a second opens records request. And in that request, I asked for any documents or text or written correspondence regarding the arrest of the woman and regarding the investigation of my first open records request. I received a response from Carol Lehman saying, I don't have anything on my end that I had any correspondence with these people. The police department, they will answer your request in regards to what they have. I have still not received a response from the police department. Again, that was originally filed on February 21st, 2020. So, there's a difference in how people of color are treated in this town when it comes to traffic stops and complaints even. While my son received hostile treatment after his formal complaint, the same officer in the spring of 2020 who we were complaining against, he stopped several white kids on the west side of town for, I think they were hanging their graduation tassels and some other things in the rearview mirror. A mother got on Facebook, started complaining. She said, hey, this officer is targeting our kids, and he's written 7 kids these tickets. And so then they got on the phone and they called the chief. And guess what happened? Their complaints were dismissed. The 7 tickets that were issued were immediately dismissed. They didn't receive the same hostility that we received. They weren't called liars when they made a complaint. So there's a problem. There's a problem, and collecting data will help us know how significant that problem is. We need to address it. It's unfortunate to hear some of you council members speak to the fact that, oh, I don't have enough information, because I know that I have badgered several of you over and over and over again with the same information. I have spoke in front of you several times about the same information. So what I hear from you is I don't care. Just the same way as the police chief does not care to answer my open records request, you don't care to read my emails. You don't care to hear what I'm saying. You don't care. You want to stick your heads in the sand. The numbers I gave you demonstrate there's a problem. We don't have all the data, but the data we're able to collect by known race shows there's a problem. There were several people who didn't like the police department infringing on their rights to not wear a mask. My son would like to be able to come over to my house on the east side of town without being stopped, profiled, arrested, handcuffed, searched, and humiliated. Surely you can understand that.
Thank you. Robert Falk. And ask you to hold your remarks to a couple minutes, please.
Oh, I got
I
I got
know.
a lot to say. No, listen, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate what's coming up. I just want to be very clear that I'm not speaking on behalf of myself as a lawyer or of my current job that I've got. I'm speaking of myself as a citizen. There's no bigger issue in community policing than race. That is the biggest issue that officers have to face these days. We've seen it in communities, big and small, all over the country, and how officers treat, stop, and deal with people of color can make or break a community. It can make or break a department. This is a huge issue, right? And so the fact that it took months and months and months for these commissioners to get an answer on what races are being stopped and arrested is stunning to me. This is information that should be readily available to a police chief in order to do his job. Because what if that information said that people of color are 10 times or 20 times or 50 times more likely to be stopped than somebody not of color? That'd be a big issue, right? And if they are doing their job right, then that would be something, and it's not disproportional, then that would be something that they could brag about. That's what's stunning to me is that they could sit and say, look, here's the numbers. This is how good we do. That's why it's stunning to me that this isn't something that is readily available to not only the police chief, but to the public. The commissioner is asking for this information to be compiled. I don't know what that's going to take. I don't know. I'm not going to, I have no opinion on whether or not that this is the proper thing for a commission to do. I think it is personally, but I've got no legal basis to believe that. But with that said, that's information that should be available easily. That way that we know. And if they are overrepresented, but there's a reason for that, we as a community can go and look at those issues, right? So we can say, okay, is it a matter of that community needs help? us as a church can go help that community, that we can provide resources to that particular community if they're being arrested or more crimes for a particular reason. I agree with Taylor that correlation and causation, maybe not. We don't know, but we don't know because we don't have the numbers. I think in reading the information with regard, and I'll finish in just a second, reading the information that the city attorney put out that said that we cannot trust the numbers that we have because they may be inaccurate is terrible too. I mean, the fact that after months and months that we don't even know whether the numbers that we've got are accurate, that's crazy to me. All that people are asking for is transparency. And if you're doing it right, man, that's something that you can show everybody. Chief O'Rourke can get up here and be like, look how good we do. That's important, right? That'd be awesome. But just refusing and saying, no, we're not going to provide the information because we don't keep it. And it's because we've got a 25-year-old or however long you said, 25-year-old system. Why don't we look for solutions rather than excuses? That's the problem that I've got. We look for solutions. So that's the important thing for me. Transparency is never a bad thing in this case. And just briefly, I'll say that if you've ever been stopped by police and refused to provide your information and they just let you go, I'd like to hear about it because I've seen dozens and dozens of cases where that's not the case. You get arrested. I've had several of my prior clients arrested. In fact, I had a conversation after dismissal of a case where a gentleman refused to provide his information. He got arrested and charged, and I got the case dismissed, but the assistant chief said he thought that was wrong, that they weren't going to change their policy or procedure, that they have to provide their information. And since then, multiple other people have been arrested in that situation. So to say that you can just walk away and say that we're not providing that information just is not true. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Carmichael.
Well, we're sitting here talking about this as exactly a real problem. Okay? You look at the facts, you want to talk about the truth. We don't have a racial problem in this town. Our cops are not racist. Look at the facts. Look what crimes was arrested, who got arrested, what for, how many times have they been arrested for. You guys are looking for a thing to blame instead of looking at what they did wrong. When the cop pulls somebody over, I've been pulled over in the car and cops asked me for my ID when I wasn't driving. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've got a police car full of people. I don't know if there's a criminal in there. I don't know if somebody's got a gun in there or a felon in there. But our cops do a good job. We lose a lot of good cops that I know because of the politically correct. How about being politically right? I sat there and talked to a judge in 1995 when I moved to this town. I said, we've got two problems here. This guy here's got 3 felonies. This guy's got 3 felonies. This guy gets 5 years deferred sentence. This one gets 99 years. Why is that? We've got good laws. We just need to enforce those laws. He says because it's how they were raised. I was raised in a very, very poor neighborhood. There was days I did not eat, but I was raised to respect authority from the cops, from my teachers, from my priest, from an adult at the store, my next door neighbor. And what we do in school, we don't discipline our kids, we make excuses for our kids. You're making excuses for criminals on our street. If a criminal refuses to give his ID or he resists his arrest, it ain't the cop's fault what happens. It's his fault. The cops got their job to do, and they do a good job. And I know good cops have left the city of Enid that was a positive for this city because of your politically correct stuff. There was shootings, like what lady said, there were shootings all across this country this last year. Was it the police fault or was it the criminal fault for resisting arrest? refusing to do what he's supposed to do. If you want the problem to stop, it starts in the household. And I had kids next to me that had less than I had. But we would learn, we go ahead in this world by hard work, moving on. And you want to talk about, I tried to go to college. I was told by 2 colleges in this state they couldn't help me because I was white. Well, if you was a minority or you was a woman, we can get you all the help you need. There's small pockets of racism throughout this country on both sides. It's just not one-sided racism in this country. And if you don't want to deal with both sides of racism, we shouldn't be having a talk on one of them when it's both sides.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I don't think the goal is racism on one side or the other. I think the goal is get rid of racism. So, and I think that's what everybody here wants to do. At least I hope it is. That's the last speaker that we had signed up for that topic. So we have a motion and a second on the floor to table discussion. Any other discussion from the panel? Pardon me?
She came in late and didn't get to sign up and would like to speak. I misunderstood, sorry.
Did you sign up? Please come forward if you'd like. Please come up to the microphone because other people can't hear you.
I work with the school system, and I still face racism from the teachers.
Ma'am, you got to address the mayor.
My name is Ray Graves. I apologize for not addressing you guys. But as far as racism, it is a lie. It never has died. One thing I've asked my niece, why? And you think about this for a second. This is the one question. Why in this whole world is blacks so hated? And that is the truth. There's no way in the world you can tell me that is false. We cannot walk the streets. We cannot go to the stores. I've had a lady who pushed my cart out the way and put her store in her cart in front.
Ma'am, could you turn around and address us, please?
I've had a lady who pushed my cart out the way and pushed her cart in front. I've had when I was at the school system, working as a teacher, I wasn't feeling well. I went to a teacher high school, teacher locker room, bathroom, you have a section where you can rest. I went in there and I rested on my lunchtime. I know 2 teachers that came in there, I refused to turn around. What they said was, what is she doing there? She has no reason being there. You know, I didn't turn around. You know why? Because I know I have a reason to be wherever I want to be. Why? Because the man upstairs put me on this earth. The man upstairs, God put all of us on this earth as one. When you die and you go to heaven, God's not gonna be asking if you're black, white, purple, yellow. He's not gonna ask that. He said he has a family. His family is one. Now, when you do wrong against his family, you're gonna ask about it. You're gonna answer to him. What those teachers told me is I did not have a right. I didn't bother, I didn't care. I did not care what they said. You know why? Because I walked there with my chest stuck out. That principal and I became best friends. Every time something happened, I got respect from the principal, I got respect from the teachers, well, some of the teachers, I got respect from the students. So when a problem happened, that principal called me and said, Ray, what do you think about this? And I told what I thought.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, we were talking about data collection, and I think we're getting a little bit off topic, but I appreciate your comments.
We are, but there is a difference between what happens with the blacks. If you don't believe that, that's okay. You can believe what you want to. But we know, like she said, I cannot have my nephew walk the street at night. No, I have not. No, I watch life. Not CNN, life. You don't watch life, that's on you. I watch life, huh?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you.
2 minutes, please.
I thank you all for having this. My name is Chuck Kearney. And I just want to address you all. I was born on Nellis Air Force Base, all right? Came here 3 years old, lived here, grew up here, played sports here. One thing that I noticed, as long as I was catching a pigskin, I was okay. As long as I was shooting a ball through a hoop, I was liked by everybody. But when I got to a certain age, when I became a grown-up, it seemed like all my white friends didn't like me as much. I wasn't accepted by their parents. But what I want to say is this, because I'm a pastor. I've been in ministry for 20 years. Not only that, I was a salesman at Jackson's of Enid for 18 years. I love all people. But one thing about it is this. We come and we talk about numbers. That is not acceptable, that the numbers that have come out, whether they're right or whether they're wrong, we need to get accurate numbers. Because as a black man that has served this community, as a black man that loves his brother, that loves his neighbor, and has treated everybody the best that I can, without a bias. And for me to feel like that I am 4 times more likely to be arrested than somebody else, that is not acceptable. And we should not be all right with it. We should not be all right with it. And if you need more time, then that's fine. But as a black man that pays his taxes in Enid, Oklahoma, and if them numbers are correct, I want to know why they are that way. I've raised my kids. I got young girls that I tell them, if you get pulled over, you make sure that you comply with whatever the police are telling you to do. Because if you don't, you might not make it home. Is that fair? No, it's not fair. But guess what? I'm going to raise my children the best way that I know how. And if that's me telling them to comply with the police, even if they haven't done anything wrong, well, then that's what I'm going to do. This is compassion. This ain't madness. I'm more scared than anything that if I leave here, my God, and my tail light is out and I'm get pulled over, and if somebody feels that I'm a threat, they might shoot me. The chief knows me. A lot of the people on the police department knows me. And I have been as fair as I can be. But if these numbers are correct, there is something wrong with the system. Well, that's what we come to find out. What numbers? What numbers? Exactly. So, like I said, if I'm 4 times more likely to get pulled over than someone, then I'm only, and my ethnicity is only 2.8% of Enid, Oklahoma. Whew, something's wrong. If the numbers are accurate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 2 minutes.
My understanding that the Enid Police Department is currently hiring anybody in this room that thinks they can do a better job than these men right here can feel free to go down there, apply for a job, put on a uniform, and make a difference on the street rather than from their seat. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I think everybody said it. All right. This is lit. Last one.
I can't even begin to act like I understand. And I'm sorry. The Jesus I serve has a heart for the marginalized. And it ought not be that anybody be marginalized. I'm a pastor. I have to operate in a culture of trust. If the body of people that I try to minister to cannot trust me, we won't have a functional, healthy relationship. Data helps produce trust. At any point in time, a member of my church can come into our office and ask, Pastor, where is this fund going? Where does that fund go? When you spoke at the last business meeting and you said this, did you follow through? And if I have not been compliant, my church has the opportunity to vote me out. There is accountability. I think numbers can be helpful. I don't think I'm not going to assume a problem. But if we can't get numbers, if I couldn't produce numbers in my own context, everybody would assume there's an issue. Why can't you produce the number? And if you can't produce it within a certain amount of time, I would be on their good grace before it would be well, we're voting you out, pal. So I think numbers can be a good tool for us. And for my brothers and sisters that are people of color, I am so sorry that you've had the experiences that you've had, and I will use whatever position that I have to extend love and grace and try to have a community that is one that is unified on fairness and equality and justice. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Pastor. Okay, a motion and a second to table the topic. Any other discussion from the table? Seeing none, I'll call for
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to address the motion to table. I'm hearing three things here. One, that these statistics look really troubling at face value. But a number of people have not even seen the statistics, and also there's questions about the statistics being valid or not. We need more information. The police department collects information on ethnicity. We're talking about different ways. They collect it to comply with state and federal guidelines. We're talking about reference to other Oklahoma police departments may collect it differently, possibly better. We need more information there. We're talking about an ordinance here that would require collecting data on significant interactions, but maybe excluding trivial interaction. What's significant? What's trivial? Again, we need more information. I am concerned about the law of unintended consequences if we act tonight on something that has not been vetted appropriately. That's first. The second is data collection. It's a police policies and procedures issue. That's not our realm. Our city charter created a police civil service commission to take the politics out of policing, to take the accountability for police individuals and actions to the police civil service commission and put the budget authority with the city commission. The Chief O'Rourke has said that the Police Civil Service Commission meeting is Thursday, that he would discuss these topics, which are obviously of concern for obvious reasons and to a great significant portion of our community. We need to take that at face value and say, okay, Chief O'Rourke, take it up with the Civil Service Commission. that's the appropriate place to discuss this policy and procedure issue, not here. I think we need to, as a city commission, put it on the table, not vote it up or down, and let it be dealt with appropriately with the right organization. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. Do we have a commissioner, a part of the Civil Service Commission?
No.
We don't?
No, we don't.
The Civil Service Commission also, just to clarify, Jeff, does not approve or disapprove of police policies. They don't set police policies. That's not within their purview either. We can pass ordinances, Civil Service Commission can't. They just hire, fire, promote. That's the limited scope of what they do. I don't want to do that either. That's not our job, but we do pass ordinances.
Carol, is it unlawful for us to have a commissioner on the Civil Service Commission? It is? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Is that all you had, Derwin?
Yes, so Carol, did you say it can be changed?
Well, it could be changed with a vote of the people. A charter amendment can be put before a vote of the people. Yes, and you can change the system. However, since 1930 for the fire department and since 1938, you all have appointed your commissioners, and you have not been able to appoint yourselves.
So take a vote of the people as the answer. We can't decide to do that.
Okay, you can put, oh, I'm sorry, I tripped over the tablecloth. The city commission usually is the one that puts together a charter amendment, and then it's put to a vote of the people. So you can do that, but if the people don't support it, then it doesn't change. But importantly now, right now, you've got your appointed people on the commission.
Thank you. I asked so that I could have a better understanding.
Does the Civil Service Commission have the ability in order to be able to change police policy?
I'm sorry, what?
Does the Civil Service Commission have the ability to change police policy or procedure?
Indirectly, probably. The chief is saying that he's going to talk to them and discuss the police policies and procedures. And if they are dissatisfied with what he has said, they can bring him up on charges. And
but they would have to charge him with something, which if he's not violating his own policies or procedures, what would they dismiss him for? That would be no cause.
Well,
as a practical matter, they don't have any levers to pull aside from.
Okay, they hire, they fire, they discipline, they promote. They
That's it.
are able to talk with the chief and give him advice, and there's nothing stopping them from suggesting policies. Frankly, there's nothing wrong with you all suggesting policies to the police chief. It's just when it comes to directing the police chief about the policies, that steps over the line of the charter. But you can always suggest things. I suggest things all the time to the chief, and sometimes he takes them and sometimes he doesn't, as we've heard tonight. And he and I have vigorous arguments, but he listens to me and he's listened to you guys too. But yeah, it's a delicate balance that our charter has, but then so is our the United States Constitution is a delicate balance as well.
And we do have a member of the Civil Service Commission present.
We do indeed.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Milton Mitchell, and I'm one of the newest members on the Civil Service Commission. And we are having a meeting this Thursday that's already been called, and we've been trying to figure out how to address some of the very issues that you're talking about. So it's to say that it's easy to do, I really don't know how easy it is, but are we striving to address it? Yes, we are. I mean, I'm just now, since I'm new, but I am finding out what we can and what we cannot do as far as hiring, firing, discipline, and things of that nature. These concerns are just as much a concern for us as they are for anybody. They really are. And I've been talking to Chief and others on the police department about it, and they're just as concerned about it, but they do have rules and things that they have to follow because of the police union and things like that. When it comes to people being, stopped out on the street, how our officers address the individuals that they pull over, those are things that we are absolutely concerned about, and that we want to make sure that everyone is treated exactly the same. And so that's what we're all after. And many a times, brother, people are raised very well in their homes, but it doesn't stop an individual from doing something that's contrary to the law. So, I'm just saying, I hear what you're saying. My dad, yeah, I live on.
If you guys want to have a discussion,
I
we can do
live
that
here
later.
I
You're
live here in
addressing us,
Enid.
sir.
Yeah, I live here in Enid, and our city has come a long way. It's come a very long way. Do we have a way to go? Yes, we do. Have we improved? We have improved tremendously. And when I applied for the position as a civil service, I had the complete support of Chief O'Rourke, our city attorney, Carol. I've had the complete support of Gerald, and and many of you on this council. So we're trying to move forward. It's just takes a little bit of time. I'm new, but when we talk about this come Thursday, whatever it takes for us to get the kind of information that the council needs, we'll make sure that it's done. You see, we'll make sure that it's done. So I don't mean to try to put myself, out there, but I'm willing to do what it takes so that we can have the kind of information that we need so that we can move forward. I think our police department is a good police department. I think we have good officers. I can't speak for all of them, but for those that I do know, they are outstanding individuals. We may have some individuals that are not, but whatever it takes to find out who they are, we'll find out who they are. We'll apply the kind of discipline that's necessary or correction that's necessary for them to either straighten up or they've got to go. And that's so that's what we do have in place at this particular point and time. But if we throw darts at one another, we're never going to get anywhere. That's just not the way to, it's just not the way to move forward. I could bring up a lot of things from when I was young that you might not feel so good about. But I'm not that young person anymore, and we're at a different point in time. And we're going to move forward, and that's what we intend to do. And I'm glad that the commission is concerned about it. And I'm glad that our chief is concerned about it. And we are going to move forward and get the kind of information that we need so that individuals who have been targeted, that they can have redress for whatever their situation has been in the past, so that in the future it doesn't happen. Okay, but that's about the best thing that I can say about it. I wish that everything was perfect. I wish that everything was exactly right. It is not. It is not. So for an individual, but you won't know what it feels like to be targeted as a black man. You won't ever know what that's like being a Caucasian. You'll never know. You will never, ever know. And even though I'm on the Civil Service Commission, I'm concerned when I leave my house. I'm always concerned when I leave my house. My wife, who happens to be a Caucasian, she is concerned about me whenever I leave my house. I ran for mayor in this town 2 years ago. I had death threats, brother. Death threats just for running. I got death threats. My wife was so afraid for me going out of my house. Does that make sense? That's in Enid, Oklahoma, but that's Enid, Oklahoma, America. It's been like that, and you're never going to cure racism. You're never going to cure that kind of stuff. But can we have a better society? Yes, we can.
Thank you, and thanks for your service on the Police Civil Service Commission also.
But before we vote, I want to mention just a couple quick things, and I promise I'll be brief. First, the Police Civil Service Commission is limited in scope, as are we. However, the 2015 Ordinance 3 and in the code, our city code actually has a whole section on public safety, a whole chapter on the police department. Via ordinance in 2015, we passed an ordinance that specifically directed the chief of police to do things. There's the chief of police shall several times. So everybody's got to be answerable to somebody. If all the Police Civil Service Commission can do is the nuclear option and fire the police chief, there's got to be a better way to handle this. But that's just not practical. And no one wants to fire a police chief, to be very clear. We've got a good police chief. No one wants to run him off. But that's all we're hearing, is that the only tool that anyone has to implement change is firing somebody at the Police Civil Service Commission. That can't be right. I don't think that could be right legally. I don't think that's right looking at our code. And just as a practical matter, I mean, it doesn't pass the smell test. It's great that we've got the Police Civil Service Commission working on something. It's great that Chief O'Rourke has expressed a desire to work on things. Guys, this whole thing started that those same willingness to work on things and let's talk and let's work on things. We've been trying that for a year. And two of your city commissioners for this town, two of your city commissioners got the runaround for a year. That can't be okay. That's all I got.
Okay. Motion and a second to table this topic. Call for the vote.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Norwood?
Aye.
Commissioner Ezell?
Nay.
Commissioner Waddell?
Nay.
Commissioner Stallings?
Aye.
Commissioner Funk?
Aye.
Mayor Pinkinen?
Aye.
Motion to table passes 5-2.
Okay. Item 6 is the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Norwood?
Aye.
Commissioner Ezell? Aye. Commissioner Waddell?
Aye.
Commissioner Stallings. Commissioner Funk.
Aye.
Aye. Item number 7, recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item number 8, all trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority rescheduled regular meeting are in attendance. Item number 9, Enid Municipal Authority rescheduled regular meeting is now in session. Item number 9.1, award the purchase of a 2020 Ford Transit T250 cargo van with sewer inspection camera, investigation equipment for the Utility Maintenance Department to Key Equipment and Supply Company in the amount of $135,775.97.
Move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Norwood.
Aye.
Commissioner Zell. Commissioner Waddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Stallings.
Aye.
Commissioner Funk.
Aye.
Mayor Pinkinen.
Aye. Item 9.2, approval of claims in the amount of $736,606.97.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Norwood.
Aye.
Commissioner Zell. Commissioner Waddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Stallings. Commissioner Funk.
Aye.
Mayor Pinkinen.
Aye. Item number 10, adjourn to convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item number 11, all trustees of the Enid Economic Development Authority rescheduled regular meeting are in attendance. Item number 12, the Enid Economic Development Authority rescheduled regular meeting is now in session. Item number 12.1, approval of claims in the amount of $27,827.07.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Call for the vote.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Norwood.
Aye.
Commissioner Zell.
Aye.
Commissioner Waddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Stallings.
Aye.
Commissioner Funk.
Aye.
Mayor Pinkinen.
Aye. Item number 13, adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item number 14, all trustees of the Enid Public Transportation Authority rescheduled regular meeting are in attendance. Item number 15, Enid Public Transportation Authority rescheduled regular meeting is now in session. Item number 15.1, approval of claims in the amount of $1,189.67.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Norwood.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Waddell.
Aye.
Commissioner Stallings.
Aye.
Commissioner Funk.
Aye.
Mayor Pinkinen.
Aye. Item number 16, adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Commission. Item number 17, public comment. We had one or two folks that wanted to talk about other topics. First is John Glaze with Mentoring and Coach a Kid. 2 minutes. All right.
And can you please remove your mask and speak into the mic?
I see over $700,000. I see over $27,000. I see $1,000 and not one red penny for one of Enid's biggest, most impactful mentoring programs that I busted my yabos for 4 years and took it not only from Enid, but throughout Oklahoma, throughout the country, and Stuttgart, Germany, and possible 2 other countries. Not one penny from any entity, citywide, or any other for that program. It's now dead. We have 8,000 kids in Enid. Each one deserves a mentor. That program is now dead. I contacted everyone I could contact. That program is dead. Someone tell me, if we really have our kids in mind from K through 12, why could a mentoring program that morphed to being online and only 15 minutes commitment for mentors to mentor a kid online for 15 minutes, which could be from 5 to 6 p.m. or during the child's lunch period or on the weekend. Why is it dead? I have police officers in here who wanted to mentor, can't do it, dead. I have a friend of mine who works for the United Nations in Indonesia who is in charge of female trafficking, international. John, hey, what do I need to do? Sorry, man, the program is dead. I don't understand how a program that literally would cost less than $200,000 a year, heck, costs less than $75,000 a year to run is dead.
You'd also signed up to talk for yourself, I believe. You're good? Yeah, okay. Well, I know, but you're signed up also, aren't you, John Gray? Oh, okay. Okay. I believe I've got everybody. Did anybody else have any public comments? Okay, thank you. That's item number 17. Item number 18, motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Second. Oh, Derwin seconded, okay. I guess. Call the roll.
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous. Close, thank you.